Hello. I thought I would do another one of my Foundry showcases. This is where I take a location from Curse of Strahd and just show you what I did with it. Hopefully, give you some ideas for yours. Today, I'm going to do the first two floors of Argynvostholt. So there's obviously Curse of Strahd spoilers in this video, specifically for Argynvostholt, and also using some of the additional materials by Lunch Break Heroes and Dragna Carter. So I'll go through in the daytime, and then I'll go through it as a character and show you what they see. Argynvostholt is one of those buildings where I didn't bother mapping the windows. A lot of ground floor places I don't like to because I think it looks quite disruptive when they're going around, especially for an older building like Argynvostholt. So I just had it that the windows were covered. You can see most of them have curtains on anyway on the inside or were mucked over. I've kind of got out of that habit a bit since I made this map. I probably made this about 6 months ago in Foundry. So as with all things, I've learned a lot since then. If I was making this again, I'd probably do it a little bit differently. My group came here with Esmeralda, so I just put an asset on the map for a wagon. I obviously have ambience, and I had a number of music playlists. Because you don't know what your group are going to do straight away. I had an outdoor ambience playlist, an outdoor music playlist, an indoor ambience, an indoor music, and then a few more ambience and music tracks for different social encounters and combats that can happen inside. So Argynvostholt is a place but can need a fair bit of prep. I'm not going to play any of the music because obviously the video could get hit for copyright stuff then, but I might put the ambience on in a bit. So in terms of how I've walled this out, the dragon statue I've done with terrain walls, so it can all be seen from a player's perspective, but it blocks vision, just to make it a bit different to being a walled off item. The entrance, you'll see its walls here. I've gone for terrain walls around the pillars to block line of sight, because my group carry a lot of torches, and that can make for good ambience. Going off Dragna Carter's guide, I have the small ember that would grow into the spirit of Argynvostholt in the fireplace here. Later you'll see when the lights are cranked down, that looks better. Standard walls in here. For the portcullis, I've dropped the portcullis as an invisible wall. An invisible door. Start one more time. An invisible wall that is set to door status and locked. So they can see through it, they can't pass through it, but with an appropriate strength check, they could lift it and then I just unlock the door. I use some more assets in here. There is the wounded or dead or dying Dusk Elf in here. Is his name in here? I can't remember. No, I've not got it in mind because he was long dead. My group came here long after they were looking for Arabelle. So I just put an asset in here, a blood splash asset and a corpse. So it was immediately obvious to my players. You can see I obviously journal entry everywhere as well. So I've always got my narrative to hand. Stairs to upstairs. I put, just to add a bit of creepiness and intrigue, I had an ambient location sound of whispering. From the, I believe, if I remember rightly, there's a large painting behind a curtain here, and I had the whispering coming from behind that, just to creep my players out. This is the room which is described as having, firstly, a leak coming through the ceiling, and secondly, an old enchanted chandelier that just softly casts a grey light over, a silver light over a room. You can see a little hint of that now. We'll see that more in a bit. Locked doors into the partially broken area known as the Spider's Ballroom. So I obviously have some spiders in here. I think I originally had them hidden. I've got some extra assets dropped in here for web effects. And I've gone with, I can't remember who made the additional features in here of some items from a previous adventuring party who have been killed. So I added on a couple of webbed body tokens. I've added a hidden note block that only I can see remind me that it's a passive perception 16 to notice webbed corpses. And then I've got in here, obviously, the items ready to assign to players if they look around. One thing I always like to do here as well is my players will obviously turn up outside. I could have it so that my scene has a snow weather effect on. But you don't want to forget that and then be inside and see that it's still snowing. So I always add for myself little reminders like that to turn off snow and weather effects when they come in. You'll see I've also got a note there reminding me about the old broken trap, so that I don't forget to trigger that. Again, all hidden so players can't see it. I will turn off that snow. We've also got in the chapel, I've used multi-level tokens. You'll see that on the next floor, so that any creatures that are here, or in this case the revenants, can be seen from the floor above if someone is up on the balcony. I also went for terrain walls in here. One of my players hated it, one of my players loved it. I've talked about this a bit in my video for the Undercroft, which is the floor space beneath the church in the village of Barovia. You set this up yourself, see what you think moving around with terrain blockers. Do you think your group would like it or hate it? We'll come back to that when I go through as the player. I have a door to the outside graveyard. I set a terrain wall here just to be like the fence. I suppose I could have, in hindsight, done that as an invisible wall. I've moved some large smoke effects over here for fog over the graveyard. And I'm going with the Lunch Break Heroes sort of additional guide that entry to the mausoleum to lay Argynvost's bone to rest is blocked by a magical miasma or a force field maintained by like the unfinished business of all the revenants. So I wanted something oddly spooky that made it clear that this door was not just very well locked. There is something magic at play. I really like what this area looks like when it's in proper ambience. So I'll come back to that in a minute. In fact, no, let's do it now. So I'm going to turn this down to nighttime. I'm going to start my Argynvostholt outdoor ambience. So my player has a bit too much sight. I don't need it to be him. I want it to be. There we go. So if he was turning up at night, he may have lit a torch. Super heavy fog on the map as well. That ambient is stuttering for some reason. I'm going to stop that. That was maybe too big a track. Again, the players wouldn't see the journal entries. The players wouldn't see the notes like the trapdoor. So if I go in, I've used ambient doors. I've used ambient doors to assign a different sound effect to this door. So when I open it, there was a delay on this sound effect. So obviously, spooky for my players. Halvor normally has a better torchlight effect, but from my actual campaign, he's got, when we last ended our session, he had dark vision on him, which is why his vision range is much bigger. I don't want to undo that because it'll cause him problems. My campaign's mostly at night at the moment, so I've reduced vision massively, so they're much more reliant on torches. So this isn't ideal. Let me turn his light off altogether, just for the spookiness. If you were to go in here, you'd see there's a slight flame effect coming from the fireplace that my players may notice and interact with that, which will lead to them seeing about the guide. If I take him out and we go into the room... Oh, sorry, first of all, the stairs. You might just hear that whispering sound. If we go into the room I had the chandelier in, you'll see there's that glow coming from the ceiling that lights up the room. And if we go near the dripping water puddle, you hear the water. coming down from the ceiling. If we were to go into the chapel, I'm going to increase his light just to demonstrate the effect of the pillars I was telling you about. Do you like that, what it does to the pillars, or do you hate it? I would be keen to know what your opinion is. And then if we go back to outside, I like to have this. I know the ambience was stuttering, but with suitably haunting music, your players, after doing a bit of exploration, come outside and they're just stuck with the sounds of a spooky night. Maybe some others. Too loud! Too loud! Oh, too loud. I apologise. So yeah, that's the first floor. You could use multi-level tokens to make those automatic doorways, things like that. I don't always feel the need to do that, particularly not in dungeon crawls. If I go up to the second floor, I'm going to do the first 2 floors in this. I'm not going to do all of Argynvostholt in one go, because to be honest, I feel like there's not that much to do on something. Do you know what? I might. We'll see how we get on. So second floor, all walled out again. There's only a couple of things up here I really like to talk about. This is obviously the target location for the multi-level token. So those are the 3 revenants that were still downstairs. If a player's up here, they can look down and see them. I used to make these terrain walls. I realised, since doing that it causes a problem. Where is the player token? Let me bring him. He's not here. Let me add him back on. The problem with terrain walls is that you can only see through one. So that puts us in a stupid situation where a player who is here cannot see someone who's across the balcony. So that was terrible design choice from me, back from what an idiot I was 6 months ago. Obviously, I should have used invisible walls. Now, some players might not even like to have walls for there. You might have just liked to make it so players could drop down. For me, if there's anything that would lead to a check, like climbing a wall or a ledge up, I like to make it a wall that players just can't move through. I want a player to be able to say, oh, I want to go up here, and then we can talk about it and we can lead to a roll. Because there's nothing more annoying for me as a DM than a player who says, right, I'm going to jump down here and attack. And then I go, okay, well that's 30 foot, so let's roll the damage. And you oh, well, hold on, I wouldn't have done, no, I wouldn't have done that. And you're moving things back, and maybe reactions have been spent. It just becomes irritating. So if there's anything that I think a player might just do quickly and then realise, oh, I didn't want to do that, I always block movement, if not vision, so they have to decide and announce, I want to climb up this ledge, or I want to jump down, can you move me through, please? Just, maybe it's my group, maybe it's my style, but I find it much, much easier. And now, he can obviously see across the balcony, as you would expect. And he can also see any movement of people down there. This part of the building is exposed. I didn't put snow on the whole map. I just put an animated weather token of snow on. I don't particularly like that. I don't think I would do that if I was running this again. The floors here are weak and can collapse down. A lot of people forget that. I really like to remember it because it drops you down into the room that was full of spiders. So that if they avoid the spiders, my group looked in the doorway into the spiders' ballroom, noticed the spiders, and were like, no, and locked all 3 doors into the ballroom. And then one of them very nearly fell in. The same player who locked the doors almost fell in here. And for me, it would have been great if he fell into the spider room and had to struggle to get out because he was locked in by doors that he'd locked. So I put an asset on here for a treasure chest, just out on the edge, the creaky, weak edge of the floorboards, just to throw temptation in. And it only had some ruined armor in there. And again, reminders for me that the floor is creaky, hidden to everybody except me. The real cool thing with Argynvostholt is, in my opinion, this trap corridor. So if you don't know, when the players get to these doors, either of these doors, a fake stone wall slams across. I think it actually appears out of magic in the book. But a stone wall blocks them off in here, and phantom warriors come pouring out the two rooms to attack. So I thought, how can I make that cool in Foundry? I took a screenshot of the map. I cropped a little bit of wall and I made it its own asset. I've put that asset across here, but I've hidden it so players can't see it. When my players got to one of the trap tiles, I did a couple of things. I can't do all of them now because I don't think I've got it anymore. I played a sound effect. I've not got it to hand anymore, but let's pretend it was just, good Christ, that's loud. Turn this volume right down. So I played like a sound effect that was a quick sliding and grinding of stone followed by a heavy bang. I right-clicked this asset and unhid it, and I quickly grabbed the wall tool and just went, I'm stuck on invisible wall from that balcony. And I just quickly went in. It all happened in the time that they heard the wall, the sound slam. And for my group, it was perfect. A couple of players were here and were locked out. A couple of players were here and were like, oh shit. And then the doors opened and combat began. And if you know anything about Phantom Warriors, they can pass through walls and doors. So the players here were really in shock when suddenly through the wall, several enemies come out. That was quite a memorable encounter for my group in that they just got locked in a kill box full of ghosts, I guess. And then when combat ends, hide the wall again. Or if I think they can cast a spell Magic Roar to get rid of the stone wall and just delete the wall. I put a corpse and some blood here just to telegraph to my players something's up here. I think I had a sound effect in here of dripping water again. The water, this is directly above the room, a floor below. I had the puddle. If I remember rightly, it's from a broken ceiling on the third floor that it's dripping down to here and it carries on. I was going to end the video here. Let's keep going. Argynvostholt 3 is another floor up. Again, I've got another level of multi-level token here where I can see from even higher up what's going on. If I make this daytime, it's not a huge amount up here to do in terms of special Foundry tricks. Again, you might want to use a different ambience track because you're starting to get to that partial exposed part of the building. The roof has collapsed in here. So I think I looked at having some light effects spilling down, maybe a bit of moonlight or a bit of ghostly light effect in here, but I ended up not going ahead with it. Argynvost, I had the spirit of Argynvost, if they sort of got his attention in that fireplace downstairs, would come up here. So for that reason, I kept a bit of a nice crackle and fire. There's a fire ambience, a fire light effect, and a crackle and fire sound effect in here. The Dragna Carta, I think it is, guide to Argynvostholt describes Godfrey and Vladimir's bedroom, old bed chambers, just affected by a constant spectral rain for emotion reasons. So I just got, I think it was actually Meteor Swarm, but I just got, some sort of different looking rain effect and had that on here. So if my players open the door, they immediately see it and are like, what the hell? I had some revenants in here for them to talk to. Sorry. Vladimir's room has caused me some problems. My group haven't fought Vladimir. They've avoided this room. These Phantom Warriors are all hidden. They're hidden tokens, so the players wouldn't see this. I love, and I'm still trying to find a way to do this in Foundry that I'm happy with. I like the idea of having a room illuminated by lightning when you're playing. I'm going to make this a nighttime map to show you what I mean. So if I make this floor darkness, you'll see there's not that much to this one except the fireplace. Having a quick swig of drink, sorry. So in here, we have Vlad's throne, and the throne faces away. And I always love, in my mind, the image of the players coming in and some lightning going off and illuminating the room. And Foundry does have options for you to set that up, but clearly I'm not doing it right yet. So if I delete this lighting effect altogether and I just clear my fog of war of the map, Halvor's in here. He can't see these ghosts. He just sees the throne. Now, I liked to have the throne blocked off of just a little bit of walling behind the dragon relief. So when they come in, they see a great big dragon statue. They can't immediately tell it's a throne. And they certainly can't see an NPC on it. It's only when they walk around here. A player might only get to here when they suddenly see that Vladimir is like one tile above them, just sat on his throne, staring out over the grounds of Argynvostholt. And for me, I love that potential of having them be like, oh shit. So yeah, that's very cool. But I would love to have lightning spill into this room. Let me show you how it can work, but I'm hoping one of you will comment telling me how I'm doing it wrong. If I make a light effect, one of the light effects we have in here, using Community Lighten by Blitz, is... So there is lightning experimental, but that just flickers every so often, and it happens all the time then, like even if nothing's happening. So you'll see in here we've got audio fade, audio pulse, and audio pulse color shift. If I pick audio pulse, you'll see it gets rid of the light and dim. It just becomes one light setting. In addition to our usual settings we have for animation speed, intensity, and color, we've got what sound band and what is the sound source. So master will go off everything, but it's also got soundboard by Blitz, requires module. Now I've covered soundboard in another video. I popped it open briefly before to play the owl hoot. If I were to pick that, we now have a light source on. Now what I don't like is it obviously still emits light to some degree. If I move out the way, you can see that even though Halvor doesn't have much vision here, from what's happening over here, we can see the light is still moving. So that is not ideal at all. That's something I obviously don't understand what I'm doing with this. But if I was then to go to my sound effects, you saw the light come in. I might want to change that a bit more. Let me increase the animation intensity, I think would be a good thing to do there. Let me try it again. Back to Halvor's perspective. Open up that soundboard. No, I like that. What I might want to do, just to make it even a bit more immersive for the players, is, well, I could do it a few different ways. I could put a wall here. If you decide, especially if your campaign is particularly misty or happening at night, for upper floors where players aren't going to go walking around, I know some DMs like to put walls in like this. The players can only see so far out at night. So now, Halvor can't, if I clear that fog of war again, because I'm still in DM view, even though I'm targeting a player. If I go on to that, I can't see too far out now, which means the light doesn't spill out and grant vision way away. So if I now do that thunder crash again, and it spills in. Doesn't spill in as much as I would like though. And I would love... This is a long thunder effect, sorry. There we go. I would also like it if I could get this to not... Because it's obviously casting a constant low level of light, which it then intensifies when the thunder goes off. I would like it if there was nothing here until the lightning happens. So you could have that, a dark room talking to Vladimir, or maybe in the middle of your combat. I would love to put one of these light effects outside each window, and then when the thunder happens, the room is just thrown up and illuminated with minimal... I know there's lots of ways that you could do that, but they'd all be quite fiddly. Like if you went back to watch my showcase video on how I did Death House, I told you all the little tricks and visual gimmicks I did for my players just to screw with them because they'd done Death House before. And it was really fiddly. I kind of went, right, punch microphone. Play this sound file, highlight all of these tokens, right-click reveal, plunge map into darkness, do this, clear fog of war vision to reset. Okay, cool. And it was like playing StarCraft 2 again, getting a really quick macro. Things like this can be make cool things just take a second. Talked about that too long there for a showcase video. Nothing else to go through on this floor. I will just load the top floor of Argynvostholt. Now, because this is all outdoors, I've got a scene level snow effect on. In itself, not a huge amount to talk about up here. I put fog on. You might want to put reminders on here for how far down it is to each floor. You're 4 floors up, and I think the floors are described as being 20 foot each. So we're now 80 foot above the Spider's Ballroom, but we could get there. You could jump down, you could fall if it ended up being a combat up here. Maybe Strahd will turn up, who knows. Little reminders like that help you as a DM remember the interaction between scenes. There's an overhang here, so you could drop down to the 3rd floor below. You could drop down and end up being here on top of these walls to these rooms. You can then jump down again. There's a slight bit of overhang from each floor. If your players have cleared the spiders out, but are somehow being overwhelmed by those phantom warriors and being chased around, they might decide to just jump down Argynvostholt to escape, and these notes help you. I put a marker here, I mean they're dead now, to remind my players that there were some phantasmal archers here shooting arrows at them, because I had this all locked off, leading up to, for my group, this is where the holy symbol of Ravenkind was. So I made a bit of a battle getting up here. And a reminder to yourself again, I haven't done this yet, but this is still looking above that multi-level token all the way down on the 1st floor. So I may want to put on a polygon multi-level to show what is on that part of that chapel floor. Multi-level, I think I had called it Arg Balcony. If I'm wrong, I'll have to go back and check it. No, it's brought them through. So even though they're all the way up here, they can now look down and see that, I mean, and it's easy for me to say this will never happen, but as you as a DM will know, your players manage to split themselves in horrible ways. You could be having a combat down in that, down here, and one of your players might have really latched onto your description that the ceiling goes up into a bell tower. A player could have fly so easily and just go, I'm shooting straight up, or spider climb. And you can suddenly be in a position where if one of your players is here, they might suddenly be at the ceiling of Argynvostholt 4. And you can put them here, and they could still see what was happening. So a player stood up here can be using multi-level tokens to still be targeting and shooting down at enemies at the bottom. That's Argynvostholt. I feel like in terms of cool tricks with Foundry, it's quite bottom heavy. All the cool stuff you do is on the first couple of floors. There kind of becomes a bit less to show off the higher up you go. You may obviously, if your group return the bones and light the beacon, you might want to put some big light effect here to show that off, like a massive daylight effect in a bright white maybe. You absolutely could do that. I think I'll leave this video there. So that's all of Argynvostholt. Please do comment. Let me know if you've done anything different in yours that I haven't, so I can steal it. I mean, so I can learn and grow. Let me know what you think works, what you think doesn't, and obviously let me know how your Argynvostholt went. I'm going to continue with these videos. I'm intending to get all of Curse of Strahd done and uploaded like this. But yeah, if there's anything you really want to see, comment, let me know. But thanks for watching, and see you again soon.